All right, welcome everybody. So let's get started in just a comfortable position to kind of do our centering. Child's pose is a great place to start. I think I'm gonna start seated myself, but it doesn't matter too much, just wherever you feel comfortable. And if you're taking child's pose, taking your knees as wide as you like them, arms in a position that you enjoy. If you're seated with me, maybe sitting up on a little piece of support so that it's easier to get your spine nice and tall. And your hands just resting somewhere that feels right for you. I'm feeling sort of palms face down is nice. It's a little bit more grounding. And just start to connect with your breath. That might mean that you're wanting to take some deeper breaths. It might mean that you're just kind of noticing what your breath is wanting to do. Seeing what you need to do to kind of bring yourself into this moment. Taking a moment to acknowledge the earth beneath your body, the particular land that you are on, and your relationship with that land, which includes how our bodies respond to things like the weather, the seasons, the moon phases, the light, the plants and flowers that are in bloom. Just remembering yourself as a part of the web of everything. And as you do that, noticing your body and its connections to everything, notice if there are any particular intentions that you have for your practice today, anything you want to keep in mind as you begin to move your body. And then fold that intention into your breath. If you haven't already, maybe beginning to find that ujjayi pranayama, feeling your breath kind of lifting you up as you inhale, ribs kind of expand and widen and lift on the inhale. And as we exhale, we're kind of connecting down to the core and the pelvic floor. Listening for that little whispering sound at the back of the throat. And whenever it feels right to you, we'll bring it into some movement. So as you guys know, I like kind of a creative cat and cow. So sort of aiming there. But just depending on where you are, you might want to move in some different ways. So I encourage you to close your eyes or keep them closed, and just don't worry so much about what this is supposed to look like, and see what kind of movements your body is inviting. And if you're not so sure about that, just the classic cat and cow is on hands and knees, inhaling into a back bend and exhaling to round the spine, but it can be done seated too. It can be done on the elbows. So again, just letting there be an exploration, which is certainly part of my intention today. I've had some things going on with my body lately, and I'm needing to be really gentle and attentive. And so I'm wanting to let this practice be a way of exploring what's happening, what feels right, you know, how much energy I have. Sometimes you don't know until you start moving, right? And just breathing the whole time. And you may eventually find this movement bringing you into your downward facing dog. You can see how that feels for you when and if you feel ready for it. Fingers spread, elbows just slightly soft. Shoulders kind of deep into their sockets. Again, eyes can be closed if you're comfortable with that, and just continuing to kind of explore. And then walking your feet up to your hands, coming into a standing forward bend. Today that might look like hanging down. You might have your elbows resting on your knees. You might be swaying, or bending one knee at a time. Again, just seeing what feels right as you check in. Curling up, gathering the belly in, and slowly stacking the bones. Feel free to come up a different way if rolling up doesn't serve you today. The shoulders can roll onto the back. Sometimes it's nice to lift your toes up, spread them apart, and I like the image of kind of squishing them into the mud, as if I could feel the mud moving in between my toes. And when you're ready, we'll begin to move through our Surya Namaskar. I know many of you know this practice really well. You can kind of get into your rhythm, into your breath, and go for it. I'll be cueing, but if you're comfortable in this sequence, feel free to tune me out and just go at your own pace, okay? We'll do 2 full rounds. As you're ready, inhale, reaching the arms up to the sky. And exhale, dive to the earth. Take a halfway lift, drawing your heart forward. Then the right foot steps back. You could take a high or low lunge here. I usually like to start with a low lunge. Reaching the arms up, inhaling. And then downward facing dog, connecting the palms, step back. Coming forward into a plank pose, feel welcome to use your knees to help you with that. You can lower all the way down to your belly, or it might be a little push up if you're not coming to your belly. And then cobra, shoulders rolling back, or maybe cow pose on hands and knees. And then downward facing dog. Inhale the right leg. We'll go up to the sky just as high as you want. And then step it through. It helps to lean a little to the left and really pick up that back heel. Inhaling into your lunge, reaching the arms up. And then forward bend. Lengthen halfway. And fold. Bend the knees, rising all the way up. And then diving all the way down as you exhale. Halfway lift. And the left foot goes back. Again, high or low lunge. I'm still in low lunge here. Heart and hands rise as you inhale. And then downward facing dog. And we move through Vinyasa, which can always be cat and cow. Okay. Maybe coming to plank pose, maybe a little push up, hugging the elbows in. And then pulling through to cobra or upward facing dog. That's with the knees lifted. And then back to your downward dog. Left leg is going to rise to the sky on your inhale. Please don't let me rush you. And then step the foot through. Finding your lunge. And then forward bend. Lengthen halfway. And fold. Bend your knees, rising all the way up. And then bring your hands together in front of your heart and just pause. Before we begin again, reaching your arms up to the sky. Exhale, dive. Lengthen halfway. Right foot back, high or low lunge. Rising up as you inhale. And then downward facing dog. Taking your vinyasa the way that works for you, coming forward to plank, maybe a little push-up, through to your upward dog, that could be cobra too, back to downward dog. Right leg to the sky, and through. Inhaling into your high or low lunge, and forward bend. Halfway lift, and fold. Bend your knees, rising all the way up. And on your exhale, just all the way back down to the ground. Lengthen. And the left foot steps back. Inhaling through downward dog and vinyasa. And again, that can always be cat and cow. It doesn't have to be this full sequence. Left leg to the sky. And through. Inhaling to rise. And to the top of the mat. Lengthen. And fold. Bend the knees, rising all the way up. And hands to the heart. Taking a moment there to feel, to receive. Beautiful. Okay. Let's bend the knees, reaching the arms up to the sky and come into a chair pose. So I like to lift the toes here, sinking back into the heels, and there's a little bit of a gathering in of the belly. I like to press the heels down and apart to really feel the glutes working, and soften the shoulders down your back. It might help to bring the hands a little forward rather than up. Inhale. As you exhale, you might consider moving down a little bit lower. Inhale, press into the heels and rise slightly. Exhale, soften. Inhale, rise a little. And melt. Then hook your thumbs, come all the way up. Reach up and lean back. And then hands release, come around behind the lower back, interlace the fingers. Soften the knees and lift your heart up. You can stay here if being upright is working for you, or bend your knees, fold down, and take your forward bend. You can be still. You can also rock a little bit from side to side. Make sure the knees are at least a little bit soft, and think about kind of sticking your bum up to the sky. And then when you're ready, release your hands down the backs of your legs towards the earth. Take a halfway lift and then sit down. Okay, and then we're gonna lay down on the back. So, if you're pregnant, if you're just being careful with your back, lay down on your side first. If you're comfortable rolling down, you can hug your belly in and just gently roll down to the earth. So we're not doing sort of an over extension of that shape, but just as a transition. Okay, take a moment laying on your back just to feel what's happening in your body. You can take a deep breath. Inhale, and as you exhale, gather your pelvic floor in and up, and gather the hip points together. So the feeling there should be that the belly is kind of drawing in and up towards your heart. So the back doesn't change at all, but we're just kind of engaging those muscles. You can stay here on the ground, or you can interlace your fingers around behind the back of your head and gently lift your shoulder blades up off the mat. So that's just going to engage a few more of those core muscles. Okay, so from here, option one is to do the marching that I know most of you are pretty familiar with by now. So we're just lifting and releasing, lifting and releasing, just one leg at a time. Okay, otherwise we'll do a little bit of a rhythm and we'll see how that feels. So let's inhale, exhale, slide the right leg towards straight, and then lift it up, straight leg up to the sky, and then lower it down, and slide the heel back up. Okay, left leg goes towards straight, so the heel is just light, and then we're lifting it up, and then bringing the heel down slowly, right, with control, and lightly sliding it back up so that the knee bends, okay? So that's just the rhythm, one leg at a time. We go straight, up, down, bend, just nice and simple, okay, nothing too complicated, but as always, the work is really just to bring the belly button in and up. Okay, you might even take a peek at it. I don't want you to overly tuck your chin here. It's better if you can look at the sky, but you might want to take a peek for a moment and just make sure that that belly is actually drawing in. Okay, so really working with kind of gathering through the core here. A little bit of psoas, definitely some transverse abdominis. And if any of this is uncomfortable or painful, just go back to the marching, which is pretty accessible. Almost everybody is good to do that marching. Good. Really nice, guys. Beautiful. Let's take this one more time each side with a breath. So we may be going at different paces. So I'm just doing right and left. And then release. So you can take the knees together or apart. Let the arms just flop open. Relax your belly, relax your head. Take a couple conscious deep breaths into your belly. Beautiful. And then we'll gather the knees in. And if you like, you can take a little pit stop in Happy Baby. So knees go wide, soles of the feet to the sky, and you can rock a little bit from side to side. And then we'll release that and make our way back into downward dog. So you can roll over to one side, kind of crawl your way there. If you're comfortable, you can rock and roll a couple of times along your spine, cross your ankles. Some of you might even be comfortable jumping back. Don't think that's for me today, but you could try it. And if you are jumping, you just want to make sure that you land with bent elbows and our knees so that you're not jamming anything. And then take whatever variation of vinyasa works for you. So full vinyasa is perfect. On or off the knees. You could do it as cat and cow is fine. You could come all the way down to the floor. Cobra, I often like upward dog after core. It's just that nice lengthening of the belly. And then when you get back to downward dog, we'll lift up the heels, bend the knees generously, look ahead of the hands, and you can hop if you're comfortable, or gently step the feet forward. I just lost my audio, didn't I? Yeah, just a sec, you guys. Can you still hear me? You can hear me? Okay. I gotta, let me know if I disappear. I'll keep my eye out, okay? So we're coming back up to standing. So you can roll up or sweep up, whatever feels most appropriate for you right in this moment. You might have some fidgeting that you need to do at the top. You might be able to be still. Okay, and then pick up your toes again. Spread them apart, reconnect them so that you feel them pressing into the earth. Lean into your left foot. Pick up your right foot and hold on to it behind you. And I'd love for you to try, if you can, holding it with your left foot. So you're holding opposite foot to hand. If that doesn't work for you, if it tweaks your knee or if it just feels a bit far, whatever, totally hold with the right hand, it's fine, okay? But if you can, just try that little bit of a cross. You can bring your right hand to your heart, soften your left knee a little bit, draw the tailbone down and just hug in that nice connected core. and begin to press the knee down, or even extend the leg back and take a little mini version of a dancer's pose. So it's probably not going to be as deep as you might go in if you were holding with your right hand, but just exploring, allowing that left hand to go back, heart beaming forward and kicking your right leg back behind you. Nice. And especially if you're not crossing, really think of pelvis pointing forward and just be gentle with your knee. Inhale, and then step your leg gently back and come to standing. So I'm hoping that your back leg landed in a little bit of a narrow shape, okay? So just take a look at your legs and think about heels in line with each other-ish. You could even go a little bit more narrow than that, almost crossed. Okay, something to explore. I think, and if this doesn't work for you, just go wider, it's fine. Okay, hands to hips, square your hips forward, lift the heart, and then gently begin to fold forward. You might just come halfway down, hands on the upper thigh, or hands on blocks, or maybe they reach to the floor. So when we have a bit of a narrower stance, we're just gonna feel this a little bit differently in the hamstring, okay? So heart nice and long, and then you can gently melt. And if you like, you can be in a little bit of a flow, lifting the heart and folding down. So think about drawing your left hip back. And you're probably going to be feeling this a little bit more to the outer part of the leg. Yeah, okay. So I think my ear mic has just crapped out on me, but I still got my computer mic, so I'll just make sure I'm projecting. Take a nice deep breath here. And then look forward. Walk your left foot out to the left once or twice so that you're a little bit more in that hips distance stance. Kick your right foot back behind you and allow your back knee to come down. So you're in a nice long, low lunge, just sort of classic alignment here. Hands on the floor or blocks, just allowing the hips to come forward and lift your heart forward and up. So we get this lovely kind of thigh psoas stretch. You can even point the toes for now. Press the top of the foot into the mat, squeeze the bum, and get that lovely lengthening feeling here. Inhale, and then gently straighten the leg. You can keep your hands on the blocks. You might just step them back a little bit so that they're comfortable underneath your shoulders or so. Flex the foot, little bend in the knee, heart forward as you inhale, and gently melt. You can stay in stillness or continue to explore that movement, the rise and fall. Beautiful. Okay, looking forward. Step your left foot to the ground, but you can allow yourself to be in a little bit of a shorter variation of a lunge. So front knee over the ankle, back hip roughly over the ankle. You might change that as we go, okay? And then you're just gonna come up a little bit higher. You can have your back toes still untucked, that's fine, or you can tuck them, just whatever's more comfortable for you. Also feel free to pad the knee. We've got a little bit more pressure going on here. Square the hips, draw the tailbone down, and think of kind of scooping in and up to get this lovely quadricep stretch. I've got my left hand on my leg, and I'm gonna reach my right arm up, just thinking of that scooping in and up. So it's not a big back bend. If anything, it's kind of a drawing in and back, tucking the tailbone down and finding again that length for the quadricep. Maybe pressing the hips a little bit forward if it enhances that stretch for you. Inhale, And then gently release, downward facing dog, and take your vinyasa or child's pose. And again, vinyasa can be cat and cow. Okay, let's meet on hands and knees. So go ahead and bring your knees down if they're not already. Hands underneath the shoulders. You can definitely do this on fists if your wrists are getting a little bit sensitive. Okay, engaging the core so that your spine is nice and neutral. And I like to bring my knees together for this. I find it's a little bit easier. And my toes are untucked, they could be tucked. So I'm going to start with some sideways clamshells. So the right knee is going to go open to the right. And then bring the knee back down without touching. Inhale, open to the right. And then back down without touching. Try to keep your hips facing down. So the rest of your spine stays the same. It's just the knee opening to the side. Just two more. Awesome. And then extend your leg back. Optionally, left hand forward. Inhale, and as you exhale, bring the knee and the elbow together. You can round the spine. And then extend the arm and the leg and lift them up a little bit without collapsing your belly. Bring the knee and the elbow together. Inhale, extend, lift a little, sort of from the glute. Extend, slight lift. Just one more time. Lift, and then bend the right leg. Reach the left hand back and see if you can hold on to the foot. Press the foot into the hand, taking a little bit of a back bend here. So again, not collapsing the core, but you can allow it to be a little bit more of back bend shape. Inhale, and then gently release the hands. Step that right foot forward, and we're coming into warrior two. So tuck the back toes under, spin the heel down, reach up and open. Nice. Find your alignment, knee over the ankle, pelvis relatively neutral, and let's just take some circles for the wrists. You can reverse the direction of the circle. And I'd like to do a little dancing warrior today. Okay, fast or as slow as you'd like to go. Looks kind of like this. So on the inhale, you're going to sweep your right arm up, left arm reaches forward. And then you trace a big circle, leaning forward a little bit, left arm goes over your head, right arm back. Rinse and repeat. Okay, so you're just tracing that big circle. No particular pace you need to go, aside from just following your breath. No particular depth you need to go, just exploring a little bit of movement side to side, kind of in the air, unsupported. Beautiful. And the next time you come forward, let's straighten the leg and come towards a triangle pose. So you may or may not need to shorten your stance a little bit. You can kind of lightly place the hand, maybe keeping yourself a little bit elevated through the use of your core. Tailbone lengthens back, slight turn of the heart towards the sky. Inhale, and then gently release your hands to the earth and your back knee as well. Again, you can pad your knee here. So we're in a pretty long lunge, nice and low down towards the ground. You can take your left hand or fingertips right off your mat so that it's nice and wide and come into a nice open twist here.
Draw the shoulders down the back, kind of lift up out of the bottom shoulder. Again, you can untuck the toes and gently press the hips forward to get that quadricep stretch. And some of you might explore bending the leg, reaching back and holding on to it, just adding that nice quadricep stretch. I find it helps me to think about kind of dragging my knee towards me a little bit. It rolls me onto my thigh, so I'm not right on my kneecap. And I find my knee is happier if I'm quite active in my quadricep. Sort of pulling the leg in. Inhale, and then gently release. Bring the hands down, ease up on the hips so you can just lift them up a little bit, and then we'll step forward. And if you need a couple of little hops to do that, that's fine. If you can do it in one step, that's great. Take a halfway lift, flutter through your lips maybe as you exhale. Then take your sweet time to rise back up to standing. I like to roll up here. I know we're going to balance in a moment. And rolling up, I find helps me find my balance a bit easier, my core. When you find standing, just take a moment to be with it. Okay, lift up your toes, spread them apart, reconnect them. Lean into your right foot, pick up your left leg and hold the foot behind you. And see if it's accessible for you to hold the foot with your right instead of your left hand, so it's across behind your body. And for me, this is just a little less familiar, so I find the balancing is a little bit harder. So I want to have a bit of a bend in my right leg. I want to hug my belly in. Connect the hand and the foot together, point the knee down. And then we could explore this leaning forward, kind of funky, twisted dancer's pose shape. Keep the knee hugging in, make sure it's not sort of opening way over to the side there. Try to keep the heart and the pelvis forward. And then gently release the foot and let it land behind you in kind of a warrior one, sort of a stance. And then take a peek at the stance. We're kind of aiming for heels in line with each other, which normally we do a wider stance, but the intention is a little bit different here. So we're quite narrow. You could even explore a bit of a cross for the legs if you want. Okay, soften that front knee, really square the hips forward. You can have as short of a stance as you need. Lifting the heart and then folding down. Don't be afraid to use your blocks if you have them. Lengthen your heart forward, see how that feels. Draw that right hip back. You can also fold and you can also flow. Lengthening as you inhale and melting as you exhale. So just again, exploring what feels right for you here. Drawing that outer right hip back. You might feel your IT bend a little bit. That's sort of the outer part of your thigh. Tight spot for a lot of us. Okay, and then look forward, kick your back foot back and land the knee, and you may want to just widen your foot out a little bit to the side, so it's just kind of a natural hips distance stance or so. I like up on blocks here, that works for me. You can even have them on the inside of the leg. You can untuck the back toes and allow the hips to come forward, not through collapsing, but by really lengthening from the toes through the chest. Might help to squeeze the left thumb. Inhale, and then gently straighten that front leg. You can keep using the blocks. You might just bring them back a little bit. Maybe you want them a bit lower. Right hip back, so this is a little bit more straight hamstring. Okay, lengthening the heart, maybe folding, maybe flowing. Stillness is totally fine too. Beautiful. Inhale, and then let's make our way back into, sorry, we're coming into a low lunge, aren't we? So just stepping that foot in a little bit closer if needed, and we're coming up into this kind of little bit of a shorter lunge kind of situation. You could still have the back toes untucked or tucked. A little secret for propping is putting the block under the shin bone rather than the kneecap. So it would be just behind the knee like that. Okay, rising up. Really drawing the tailbone down, right hand could be on the thigh, and you could reach the left arm up. So it's kind of this scooping in so that you feel your quadricep there. You could press the hips forward slightly, but just to the point where you're feeling a good stretch there. And then gently release, making your way back to downward facing dog. And again, do what you need to do. So any variation of vinyasa, child's pose is also a nice rest if it feels restful for you. Staying in downward dog is a good choice. It's a little opportunity to kind of reset a bit. And then you can bring your knees down when you're ready. So we're on hands and knees, or hands and fists is fine. And again, you can just bring the knees in a little bit closer. I find it's a bit easier to balance in this little sequence. Hugging the belly in, shoulders back. Left knee goes open to the left. And then close without releasing the knee completely. Open as you inhale and close. So just getting a little bit of that outer hip work happening here. So beneficial for balance, supporting the lower back, all kinds of other things. Just noticing if it's hard today, which if it is, you're not alone. Just two more. And then the leg will extend back. See if you can reach your right arm forward. Notice if you're collapsing into your left shoulder and really lift up out of it. Inhale, and as you exhale, draw the knee and the elbow together. You can hug the belly in and round a little. Extend, keep the belly neutral, but you can lift a little bit there. Okay, so it's not lifting into a back bend. It's activating the glute muscle and the shoulder muscle there just to lift slightly. So not a collapse. The movement is from the hip and shoulder joint, not the back, if that makes sense. Awesome. Okay, one more time, drawing in. Extend. Bend the back leg, reach back behind you, hold the foot, press into it a little bit. This one's sometimes called the tiger pulling its tail. Inhale, gently release, step that foot forward, and we're coming up into warrior two. So the back heel lands, reaching the arms up and open, settling, and again, you can take some wrist circles if that feels good. And reversing the circle. And then coming into the dance, leaning back, reaching the right arm forward, left arm back, tracing a big circle, coming forward any amount, sort of like a floating side angle. I encourage you to just close your eyes. You can kind of, or soften your gaze. Just kind of getting your attention away from what this looks like or how far you're supposed to go, and see if there's any possibility for you to actually enjoy it. And then we'll take it into triangle. So next time you come forward, you can straighten your leg, just gently not locking into the knee. You may or may not want to shorten that stance a little bit. Just leaning down and keeping that sort of connection of the core as you come down. So you don't need a lot of weight on your bottom hand. It is okay to put some weight there, but if you're doing that, you've got to really resist with your shin so that you're not pushing down into the knee joint. Turning the heart open to the sky. Beautiful. Inhale and then spin all the way down to the earth. Lower the back knee down. You may want to widen the left foot a little bit, maybe lengthen it a bit. Take your right hand open, left arm up to the sky. Okay, hug the inner thighs. Think of dragging forward a little bit with your back leg, and you might try bending the back leg and just seeing if you can get your quadricep involved there. We're doing lots of different variations on this, so if this particular one doesn't work for you, that's fine. You can work with the leg long, maybe the toes tucked under, and just pressing the hips forward, not collapsing, but lengthening. Just be aware of that right shoulder. I have a tendency to sort of collapse into it sometimes. So think of pushing up out of it. And then gently release as you're ready. Bring your hands down, kind of ease up on your hips. Pick up the back knee and come forward, maybe a couple of steps for that. Maybe just one. And take a moment in your forward bend. You can hold opposite elbows, you can sigh, you can sway. Just taking a few moments here. Okay, so I'd love for us to practice a little bit of inverting right now, if that works for you. So if you have a wall you want to work with, you can widen your feet apart, grab the edge of your mat, and walk yourself to a wall. You can roll up with your mat and walk it to a wall. And if you're not going to a wall, you can stay as you are, maybe coming down to your knees so that you can kind of observe what we're going to be doing. So I want to play a little bit with handstand, and play is the operative word. So don't feel like you have to go in, don't feel like you have to do the full variation or anything. But there might be some fun stuff that we can play with, and I'm actually gonna tilt a little bit over here. If you have an inversion that you know works for you, like headstand, forearm stand, even downward dog or standing forward bend, those are all great. A restorative inversion is legs up the wall. We're gonna start cooling down after this, okay? Well, we'll do a back bend if we have time, but yeah, you can be where you need to be with this. So if you're coming with me, we'll do some handstand prep. And if you're coming with me, that doesn't mean you have to do handstand, okay? Just to be clear, no pressure. Downward dog is awesome prep for handstand. So you can come into your downward dog. Fingers spread, okay, fingertips pressing into the mat. And then walk your feet in a little bit so that your shoulders can come over your wrists. Look down at the mat and kind of plug the shoulders into their socket. So that's awesome prep. You're probably going to feel your core here. Next step, you can lift a leg up, bend your standing leg, and you can take a few little hops. Okay, if you're not by a wall and you just want to play with the hopping, think of your bottom knee or leg coming into your chest. So you're not swinging it over your head, you're using it to counterbalance. Okay. Nice, good job, you guys. Okay, next step, and you can switch legs as we're playing with this. If you're comfortable, if you're happy, if you know that you're pretty safe with your wall there, the next step would be to just walk away from the wall a little bit. So you have a little bit more space to work with. Same prep, coming forward, but this time you're going to be really thinking about the space behind your body and working with a little bit of openness there, okay? You feel free to take a peek if you haven't. I'm hugging in. I might bend my back leg. I would need a wall for this. I wouldn't recommend doing this without a wall. I'm pointing that back knee down and exploring a little bit of that split shape up there, okay? Once I get the split shape, if I'm doing it, and I'm not saying I'm an expert on this or anything, so one leg's coming forward, the other one's bent against the wall, and kind of hugging in and just playing a bit with my balance. Okay, and I'm a little out of practice with my inversions because I've had some things going on, as I mentioned, and I'm not feeling as strong up there as I might have at other times. Just so you know, we come to our practice with lots of different kind of things going on. So if it feels playful and good for you to do, that's great. If it's feeling like, nah, I don't think so, feel free to come down. Okay, it's all a play. There's no particular place that we're trying to get to. Okay, so we'll take a few more breaths. And if you're enjoying this, you want to try it a few more times, feel free. That's it, Danielle. Yeah, you got it. And if you're feeling like it's complete for you, just come on down into your child's pose or your standing forward bend, whatever feels most restorative for you. If you're laying on your back, that's great. We're going to meet you there in a moment. Okay, and then whenever you're ready, come on down to laying on your back. And I do want to do, let's see, what do we have time for? I do want to do at least one back bend. We're quite prepped for it right now. So let's see how it goes. So you can come and lay on your back if you're not there already. Feet on the floor. You may want to take your arms up to the sky and just take a few little begging dogs here. So we spread the fingers on the inhale, and then on the exhale, we curl the hands into fists and press them down so that we're stretching the backs of the wrists. And then just take a couple of those. Handstand can obviously be pretty intense on the wrists, so we want to give them a little bit of love. Let's do one more of those. And then we'll explore, I think, one back bend, and I'll just give you some options for how far you want to go. You can circle your wrist, you can shake out your hands, and then bring the elbows beside your ribs. So I like my feet a bit wider than my hips. That's me. Some people like them closer. Heels are not touching the bum, but they're pretty close. They're right underneath the knees. Okay. Draw the belly in, but we're not tucking the tailbone. We're just keeping it neutral. Lift the hips up, press the elbows down and apart, and start in your lovely bridge. So you can interlace your fingers or just keep the arms in that elbow shape, bent elbow shape. Yeah, that makes sense. Hug the knees a little together, push the mat away from you, and just find that nice back bend. Quadriceps have so much to do with back bends, so often when we do a lot of opening there, the back bends can feel pretty good. And if you're feeling like, yeah, I have the energy, I want more, you can release your hands, place them beside your ears, lower your hips a bit, hug those elbows together, and press up to the crown of your head. Widen the hands a little bit, and then work the arms towards straight. Once you're up there, okay, reconnect with hugging the knees in and pushing the floor away. When you're ready, gently come down, chin into chest if you're coming out of wheel. Just releasing down onto laying on your back if you're coming out of bridge. You can let the knees fall in or out and just take a few moments to relax everything, including your breath. That might be a sigh. When you're ready, you can hug your knees into your chest and rock a little bit from side to side. Then take your right ankle onto your left thigh, coming into thread the needle. Holding onto the back of the left leg, feet are gently flexed, and we're drawing the legs in to get that stretch into the outer hip. Some of you might like a little sway from side to side as you're doing that. Sometimes it just kind of massages the different areas of the hip. And if stillness is where you want to be, that's perfect too. It's not right or wrong. Okay, when that feels complete, you can gently release that side and switch. I like to shake the legs a little bit in between. Left ankle comes to the right thigh. You can hold on to the back of the right thigh and hug in. When that feels complete for you, again, you can gently release your legs, give them a little shake up to the sky. And I'd like to take a twist. Just simple two knees twist is lovely. If you have a favorite way to twist, feel free. Okay, I like to roll all the way to my side first to set up. Find that natural curve in my lower back and then roll my left arm open, or whatever the top shoulder is. I find that that moves the stretch a little bit more into my upper back, which I like. Okay, some people like to move a bit more from the lower half. You can turn your head away from your knees, allowing your breath to move into your belly as long as that feels safe. Okay, and then gently roll out. So I'm rolling to my right side to come out and then all the way to my left. Bringing the knees up, natural curve of the lower back, and then my right arm opens. And again, you don't have to do it the way I'm doing it. It's just what I like, what works for me. Then turning my head away from my knees and just allowing my shoulders to be nice and heavy. Feel free to adjust as you need to so that there's no pain in your shoulder or your lower back. It should feel good. These twists are intended to feel good. If you need more space, move the knees down. And if it's not feeling good, you don't have to do it, right? Trust your body above all. When you're ready, And I'm rolling to my left and then onto my back, and we'll prepare for Shavasana. So you may want to take a last symmetrical shape like happy baby, or just hugging the knees in and rocking side to side is great. Shaking the legs up to the sky, just whatever works for you. And then find your Shavasana. So Shavasana is meant to be ideally totally effortless, so as comfortable as you can possibly be. That doesn't have to be laying flat on the back. It may not be that for you today. Feel free to prop it up as you need to. Bolster under the knees is nice. If you don't have a bolster but your back is begging you, try bending the knees and letting them rest against each other. You can also be seated or laying on your side if that's more comfortable for you. Okay, just a place where you can rest and receive the benefits of your practice. So take a moment to notice how you're feeling right now. And if you need or want more time to rest, please feel free to stay. Otherwise, you can begin to deepen your breath. Bring some small movements into your toes and fingers. Maybe take a stretch. Hug your knees in and gently make your way up to a seat. You can place your hands together at your heart or over top, whatever works for you. And take a moment just to bow to yourself, to whatever it took for you to get here to your practice today. To honor and acknowledge the long and complex lineage of teachers that is with us in our yoga. To honor and acknowledge the sacredness of the land that we practice on. Thank you for sharing that practice with me.